alum of UNC. I received both of my undergrads and my master's degree in rehabilitation counseling from UNC. So it is good to be home. Previous to that, I worked in K through 12. I was the School to Work Alliance program coordinator for Jeffco Public Schools. So SWAP, if any of you know that, I'm guessing a lot of educators probably do. My world is all about connecting individuals with disabilities to employment. And with that, I will mute myself. I will turn it over to Laura Anderson, who is my Director of Campus Inclusion. Not Campus Inclusion. I gave you the wrong title. I'm so sorry. I was thinking of James Slaughter, everyone. I'm so sorry. James Slaughter is our Director of Campus Inclusion. He was not able to join us tonight, but he rounds out our team. So I will mute myself. Laura Anderson is our academic coordinator. I'll let her talk about herself now.
Hi, everybody. So yes, I am the academic coordinator for the GOAL program. I started about 2 months after Christina, actually. Previously, I taught middle school. I've been in special education for, I did the math earlier, 7 years. I think this is my 7th year. And had taught middle school previously. I'm also a doctorate student at the University of Northern Colorado, working very, very, very slowly on that. So I still have like years left after I've been in it for a while. My role at UNC really is to help students navigate the academic side of things. I teach and develop the GOAL classes that students take every semester. And then I work with the students to help them, figure out how to complete their coursework. I work with the professors to modify the coursework, which at the university level looks fairly different than it might at the K through 12 level. And then communicate those modifications back to students so they know what their class requirements are. I also help coordinate with the peer mentors, who are a huge part of our program. Honestly, I'm not sure we could function without them because they're so important, because they're the people who help students with homework. They do tutoring, they help proctor tests. They also help students on the social side of things, help them navigate campus, have social events and just hangouts, that kind of a thing. The peer mentors are super, super important. So that is my role. And then Isabel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, my name is Isabel. I am one of the UNC GOAL students. I am a senior this year. Yeah, it's nice to meet you.
Awesome. Izzy, I don't know if you know this, but your camera is off. Even though I love your profile picture, it's like very wintry. Ah, there you are. Yeah, so I think how we'll structure ourselves is I will go through the PowerPoint presentation. And then just a high level overview. Izzy, give you some time to just talk about what your experiences have been at UNC, like what you're studying and those types of things. Does that work for you, Izzy? All right, cool. Okay, so I have been navigating the world of Zoom relatively effectively, but we'll find out. You might all be staring at your own faces. If that's the case, then that's not good. Shelby, I love that you're recording this and I'm like fumbling. Did it share?
You're doing
It didn't share.
great, Christina.
No,
it did share.
It did.
Oh, it did share, and then I got excited and just started closing windows.
Yeah.
Hey, that sounds about right for me. One time I tried to teach a class and I had like 3 monitors pulled up. It did not go well. All right. Can you see a PowerPoint?
Not this time.
No. Curses. Well, can you? Okay. All right. I feel like we should like talk amongst ourselves. I'll give you a topic. Laura, while I fumble around a little bit, do you want to talk about James's role while I get my life together over here?
I can try. So James, who's the director of campus inclusion, does so many things. Um, so we very lovingly joke that he just kind of teleports all over campus because he is constantly running around. So James works with, and I'm going to forget all of the people he works with because there are so many. So as the director of campus inclusion, he works with housing to help make sure that students are in their housing. He also really works very closely with our residence life peer mentor. Or actually we have do we have two of them right now? Are they both Residence Life? Either way,
Yes.
so Residence Life
Yes.
mentors who help students navigate dorm living and everything that comes along with that. So basic things like, oh my gosh, my heating isn't working. What do I do? The Residence Life mentors take care of that kind of thing. To my roommates and I aren't getting along. How do we handle this? So James really works closely with them. He runs around with, oh my gosh, the rec center to help make sure that we can use the facilities there. And he helps arrange, oh my, see, I can't even think of all the things.
It's all right. It's all right, Laura. You were just really feeling kind for me. And
I know
you did
I was.
well. You did well.
Because he does so many things.
So many things. So what's important to know is the full-time goal staff, we all bring different expertise to the table, and we work in collaboration to make sure that student needs, academic, vocationally, and socially, are getting met. So on to the presentation. So we are UNC Goal. If you're in this meeting, you're in the right place. So what is Goal? Goal stands for Go On and Learn, and it is an opportunity for students with intellectual and/or developmental disabilities. We are a 4-year certified transition program, or a CTP. So all Goal students live on campus right now. I'll talk about that a little bit in depth in a minute here. They live on campus. They take classes with degree-seeking peers. As I speak, I will not be referring to degree-seeking students as typical because I don't like that word. And I will be referring to goal students as probably goal students because the differentiation is goal students are not degree-seeking. So they participate in campus activities alongside their degree-seeking peers, and then goal students receive academic, social, and job supports. So this is us. We had some like UNC headshots, and they really just made me kind of sad because they did not show our personalities. So you can see me there. James is in the middle, and then Laura at her favorite place in the world, Yellowstone. So why do we get to exist on UNC's campus? So because of the College or the Higher Education Opportunity Act of 2008, slow down, Christina, and the work of parent advocates in 2016, UNC opened its doors to the first Goal students. So we do have 3 inclusive higher education programs around the state, and we're all a little bit different, but we all do similar things. So UNC Goal, Office of Inclusive Services at UCCS in Colorado Springs, and then Elevate at Arapahoe Community College. So a very good resource that's going to answer a lot of questions that probably will come up is Think College, so thinkcollege.net. If you're an educator joining us today, a lot of really nice resources there. If you're a parent or support person, great resources. And if you're a student that's like, what are the things I need to know to be successful? I would say definitely look at Think College. So many questions are answered on that site. So if you are a parent on the line, your role is going to be different as your student transitions from high school to college. And this is a really important distinction to make because your student now is in charge of their lives, really. So in the K through 12 setting, we know that parents own the educational records of their student until the age of 18 or they exit the K through 12 system. When a student comes to an inclusive program, those rights under FERPA are transferred to the student. So we can't talk to parents unless students tell us, yes, that's okay. And UNC faculty can't talk to parents really under any circumstance. So that's important to know as you're sort of thinking about what the role will look like. And I will say, just like for any parent sending their student to college, it's scary, but it's definitely a good scary. So as a parent, you will shift from an advocate to a trusted advisor. So we will be working directly with the student to help them with their self-determined lives. Obviously, families and caregivers are still part of the team, but the voice is really, we will be going off the student direction. So important to know if you're an educator on the call, as those transition IEP meetings are starting to happen, really encouraging students to lead those as much as possible will help them in their transition to the college setting. So the communication will now flow from the student to support staff and or the professors. So what it will look like is if parents email myself or my staff directly and forget to include their student, we will respond back, but we will make sure that student is looped back in on the communication. So nothing for a student without a student. Like I said, the records transfer from the parents to the students at the college level. So I'm almost afraid to click on this link because I always tend to lose my PowerPoints when I do so, and I'm happy to send this out as well, if it makes sense for folks. I can drag my screen back. So Shelby, I don't know if you can give me a love note in the chat and tell me that you can see the Think College website.
I can see it, Christina.
All right. So this is really just a nice resource. Like I said, great graphic here that's going to say, what are going to be the differences between high school and college? All right. Yes, Laura, not my Laura, other Laura. I will be happy to send these slides to Shelby and have her send them out to you all. So again, just really highlights the difference. So when we move to college, we are shifting from IDEA to Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, and things will look different. All right, let's go back. Current slide. I'm hoping Shelby's going to tell me if she can see my slides. Oh, Shelby, you're doing great work on your end. Thank you so much. And then I hope I updated this. All right, so 2020, it's been a year. If you're all feeling it, we're feeling it. So 23 students started this semester with us, and they have received support in academics, independent living, campus membership, and then that self-determined piece. Mentors are really the backbone of the work that we do. So mentors are degree-seeking students, and they are typically paid student employees. We do have some mentors that choose to volunteer because they're just really passionate about supporting other people and don't really have it in their schedule to work a lot of hours, but just want to be available. So the ways in which peer mentors support academics, like Laura talked about, so studying, helping, keep students on track with assignments. Most students will meet with their academic peer mentor about 4 to 6 hours a week. Peer mentors also help with social inclusion, so this can look a lot of different ways. Meals with students, participating in clubs and organizations with students. Obviously, during COVID times, that has required us to do more social distancing, but social inclusion is definitely still happening at the level that it can. And then peer mentors can also provide vocational supports in the form of job coaching or running workshops on employability skills, those sorts of things. So, oh, this is a great picture. This is 3 of our students and Claus, who is our UNC mascot. So students in Goal, they live in residence halls, participate in clubs, organizations, do all of the things that a degree-seeking student would do. So what makes us just a little bit different than our sister programs in the state is we have the campus living component. So here you can see an aerial view of what a Turner suite looks like. So I did the research one day because I don't know, I couldn't sleep. UNC is one of only 18 four-year institutions where students live on campus in the residence halls. So for the first 2 years, students live in Turner Hall. They're supported by Residence Life peer mentors. We used to have 1 mentor and we increased it to 2 based on student numbers this year. And then James, who Laura talked about, his office is actually in Turner. So we've got a lot of support in the residence hall, which is important because in a college setting, we're not going to be in classes all day, every day. So students really need leisure time and oftentimes need support with figuring out what that leisure time should look like. So when I say students live on campus, that's for students who live outside of the commuter radius. So if you're within specific school districts, there is a commuter option available to students. And then junior and senior years, students are really encouraged to live as independently as possible. So that can look a lot of different ways. We have a student who's living independently off campus. We have a student who is living in a campus apartment. We have students who are living in other dorms closer to where their friends are or where their academic programs reside. So engagement, I had to update these pictures and make sure I got some mask pictures in there for everyone. So again, students are really, they choose what they want to participate in. There is an expectation that students are participating. So you can see, I mean, hanging out, having some lunch. They went to the bowling alley this semester. Again, there's Claus. I just think that's a great picture. And that's actually one of our students participating in his work experience there with Claus. All right, so 2020 is the year that will forever have an asterisk by it. So our students are still participating in these events like Greek life, Bear Catholic, martial arts, with the caveat that a lot of our programming as a university went to online to keep everybody safe, which I'm sure is no surprise to anyone on this call. Academics, so it's important to note that academics is one pillar of the program, and I know I won't hurt Laura's feelings when I say it's what gets us in the door, but it's not the end all be all, which is really important to say because the goal of Goal really is to help students lead self-determined lives with leisure, with vocational, and then obviously academics gets us in the door and it's what grounds us at the university. So Goal students will take 8 to 10 credit hours per semester, whereas a degree seeking student to be considered full-time would take 12 to 18 credit hours. So all students participate in one Goal direct instruction course a semester. And then they take 2 traditional courses available from the UNC catalog. First semester is pretty set for students. They take the Goal course, and then they take University 101, which is required for all freshmen undeclared degree-seeking majors, and then required for all Goal students because of the skills that are taught. So like how to write a research paper, how to be organized, how to present. So what you can see on this slide here is from last year, research night. So students do the research and then go and present as people are walking by their tables. Students meet with Laura and or myself to create an individualized 4-year plan of study. So this plan of study is done in conjunction with the academic departments. And we really take their guidance and expertise to create awareness of what would make the most sense for a goal student based upon their expressed area of interest and their expressed career path employment. Goal students have access to tutors, they have access to peer mentors. Laura does an amazing job working with instructors to develop the principles of universal design for learning. So really to create accessibility for all. Accommodations are provided through the Disability Resource Center, and then modifications is the work of Laura. So the transcript for a goal student, so it's important to know that goal students are not auditing classes. They are expected to complete their modified coursework, and they do earn a letter grade. So that modified transcript will say courses taken for modified coursework. That's not the exact language, but it's pretty close. So students are exiting goal earning a certification of higher education in their area of interest. So for example, early childhood education, brew science, human services, trying to think of some other, those are really like early childhood education. A lot of our students come to us with that being an interest, which makes sense because UNC is largely an educator institution. So here's just like what a 4-year plan would look like. And again, this is what is being built out mostly with Laura. I help out as needed because I know that's definitely a question. So as you're looking through this 4-year plan of study, it is important to note, like first year, we're really being conservative with what the expectation of students is. My daughter has just come in. Apparently she wanted to hear my voice some more. So first semester, we're expecting students to really just learn how to be a college student. And then as we go into second semester, we're starting to think about and find on-campus employment. Years 2 through 4, students are expected to work. So years 2, they're expected to have on-campus employment. Years 3 and 4, we're looking at off-campus internships and off-campus employment. So that's what you'll see reflected down there in those bottom boxes. So a quick and dirty overview of accommodations versus modifications. I don't know if Laura tweaked this or not for me today. I feel like it looks a little bit different.
I did. I tweaked it.
I thought so.
added one thing. I only added one thing. So if you need me to explain that, I can.
You're all good. So accommodations is how the learning is going to occur, right? And then these again are provided through DRC. So all of our students are connected with the Disability Resource Center on campus. They work in very close collaboration with us to make sure students' needs are getting met. And then modifications is when Laura is working alongside the professor to change the coursework, and I probably will like mute myself because Laura like can talk more intelligently about what she does every day. So Laura, do you wanna talk about this slide? You do a better job.
Right. So for those of you who have worked in the K-12, you might be familiar with this already, but I like to talk about it at the college level. Those of you who don't work in education probably have not heard these terms in these specific contexts. So accommodation just changes how a person learns. So for instance, if somebody has dyslexia, they might use an audiobook instead of reading a physical text. That's an accommodation. They're still responsible for learning the same material, but the way in which they learn it is slightly different. all students at UNC with disabilities are eligible for accommodations through the Disability Resource Center. As Christina said, we have worked with them extensively. All students in the GOAL program have accommodations that they work with DRC to determine what would be great for them and what would meet their needs. Modifications actually change what a student is responsible for learning and how they are responsible for demonstrating that learning. One of the really big things that I work with professors on is shortening papers, for example. So Christina mentioned all freshmen take University 101, and at the end of University 101, students write a 5 to 6 page paper. Students in the GOAL program do not write a 5 to 6 page paper. They still have to write a paper to show that they can go through the process of learning, but that paper might be 1 page, it might be 3 pages. So I work with the professors to decide how the student can still demonstrate their learning and their understanding of the materials, but in a way that, one, plays to the student's strengths whenever we can, and also plays to the students' interests and career goals. So the cool thing about the University 101 paper is students get to pick their topic. And there are some really amazing topics and papers that come out of that. In other classes, that can look like, well, you know, the student struggles with taking tests, but they are great at having a conversation. So they're not going to take a quiz every week. They're just going to spend 5 to 10 minutes talking with the professor about the same things that the professor would quiz them on. And the professor is going to get their get the understanding that, yep, the student understood the material, they got what they needed to during our conversation instead of taking a quiz. So that will look different for every student in the GOAL program. These are very highly individualized modifications based off of student needs, student strengths, and then the professor's expectations for a degree-seeking student in the class. So most of the work that I do is around the modifications, working with the professors, communicating those modifications back out to the students and their peer mentors. If we get partway through the semester and we're like, oh wait, those modifications aren't working so well, then going back and saying, hey, how can we further modify this? So that is the difference between accommodations and modifications.
Fantastic. Thank you, Laura. See, you do a much better job. It's almost like that's like what you do every day.
It's true.
So the third pillar of our program is going to be vocational or career, right? So looking at career path employment and what that means for our students. So I talked about this in the 4-year plan, but the first and second year is really going to be about career exploration, on-campus employment. And on-campus employment is going to look along the lines as it would for any UNC students. So working in the dining halls, working at the rec center, really anywhere where UNC students are earning some wages is where GOAL students can also be found. There is an expectation for students to continue working in their home communities over the summer break. And I point to this because students, families, educators who are on the line, really making sure that students are getting connected to those community resources well, probably right now, because that should really be happening during that transition IEP. So, which is no news to any of you, I realize that. However, I just have to say it. So, and those community resources are going to be Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, your community center board, your local workforce center, anywhere that is going to be supporting in the employment domain. And then the third and fourth year, again, we're looking at off-campus internships based upon that career goal and off-campus employment. There, once again, the expectation is for students to continue working in home communities over summer break. So if students are already working before they come to us, you know, hopefully being able to maintain those community connections and being able to pick up employment when they return home. So other supports that are going to be on UNC's campus, these are universal supports, Disability Resource Center, the Writing Center, Counseling Center, Tutoring Center, Campus Rec, Center for Women's and Gender Equity, wow, Christina, Gender and Sexuality Resource Center, and then Student Health Center. So the application process, it is going to be different for GOAL because students are not going to go through a typical admit process. So we do require a pretty decent amount of documentation. So we are looking for, obviously, documentation of disability, the most recent triannual with those testing scores on there, the most recent IEP, letters of recommendation for the student, letters of recommendation for families and caregivers. We ask for this because we are all going to be working together in support of the student. So it's important that we have similar visions to support the student. Completion of a personal support inventory. To be a GOAL student, students must be their own guardians. And we ask for this because, well, UNC requires it. And in order for students to be able to make those independent educational decisions, they need to be their own guardian. We do have some instances where families may have like medical power of attorney, and that's perfectly understandable, especially during the current times we're in. Successful completion of a student and caregiver interview. So what this looks like and will probably look like for admit for next year would be Zoom interviews. We did them spring break of last year. They last about 2 hours per applicant. We interview the student for 45 minutes. We meet with a parent or caregiver for 45 minutes. And then we bring the whole family back together to just talk through some additional questions. That's an interesting application deadline that I put there. Really, that should probably not be that day. It should really be March 1st. I will change that before I send that out. Ooh, I don't want to scare you all with that. So looking for a March 1st application deadline, reason being, need some time to review records. And we would really like to have our interviews over spring break again when students are off campus, just so we have time to make sure we're being thoughtful with every student we meet with. Competitive process, so we don't take everybody who applies. We took 10 students, actually we admitted 10 freshmen this year. Not all chose to come, just, well, because we're in a global pandemic. Decisions are going to really be based on the student's desire to attend college. We know that if a student does not want to be a college student, they won't be successful. It doesn't matter how much everyone else wants it for them. And then the ability of GOAL to be able to meet the student's needs. So there are some cases where we just simply aren't the best fit. And if that's the case, we will definitely let people know. The ability of the student to be able to negotiate transitions between classes and buildings, lunch and non-activities. We don't provide 24-hour supervision. So students do need to be able to navigate their downtime. And the biggest thing that we've noticed this semester is students who do not ask for support are not being as successful. So we have all of the support available, but students need to make sure they're attending meetings with their peer mentors and with GOAL staff. And then the commitment of the applicants, family, and caregivers to support the student's goals. So it doesn't do the student any service if we are working on one end and then parents and caregivers are doing something different. It confuses the student, quite frankly, and it undoes a lot of the work that has happened during the school year. There needs to be a willingness to apply for adult wraparound services because, you know, we're a 4-year program, but the student is eventually going to go back into the community, and we want to make sure that we're having a warm handoff so the student is continuing to be successful when they leave us. These are scary numbers, and I know that. UNC GOAL students pay typical tuition and fees, typical housing, meal plan. There is an additional academic or an additional program fee of excuse me, $4,500 a semester or $9,000 a year. It's important to know that we have to pay for ourselves. The university doesn't pay for us, if that makes sense. So these tuition and fees, we get the goal class tuition, but we don't get any of these other funds that are coming in to fund our program. So the estimated cost is about $28,000 a year. That can go obviously up or down depending on if the university has to increase tuition. So there are possible funding sources, and so because we are a CTP, students can qualify for Pell Grant and Federal Work Study. So making sure that those FAFSAs are getting filled out, and hopefully they have already been done so, because I know that those can be done as early as October. DVR is able to provide support in some cases if it makes sense for the student to attend goal in support of their individual job goal. And then there are a couple scholarships floating around. I just found out that the Bresnan Halstead Foundation would like to offer a scholarship to one student a semester in the amount of $4,500. So the deal with inclusive education is it is still very new, and students do not qualify for federal loans because it's not a degree program. But there are resources available. I have had families also work with their local community center boards to apply for mill levy funds to help offset some of that program fee. So my website is here. It's kind of sad. Please bear with me. It has been not on my list of high priorities this semester, but it will definitely be getting some love over winter break. All right, so I did a lot of talking, and Laura also did some talking, not as much as me, and Laura does a better job on these. I should probably let her be in charge. Kidding, Laura. I'll go ahead and stop share.
Do we want to let Isabel
We
talk
do.
about?
Yes, we do. But I wanted to take down the presentation. All right, Isabel, I'm going to mute myself. I think everyone would love to hear more from you than from me or Laura. I know that you're a senior. Your experience has been good. You're doing things a little differently this semester. And that's also been something to maybe talk about, because I know people have questions about what pandemic looks like. So I don't know if you prepared questions. I'm going to mute myself, Izzy, for realsies now.
Hi, my name is Isabel. I am a senior at UNC. My main area of study is in communications. What I'm thinking about doing after I graduate from college is to become a life coach after I graduate. And I am currently in Florida, but that is out there because of this pandemic. It's a little bit different to be in this pandemic because going back to UNC is going to be a little bit different. And like for some people, might be a little different than in the past. So yeah, definitely it's going to be a little bit different, but the process of going through college is a good experience for a lot of students with the different types of disabilities.
So what Izzy's been able to do this semester, which I think has been kind of cool to watch, Izzy's been joining us virtually, so has some very fantastic Zoom skills, Microsoft Teams skills, all of the virtual skills. So Izzy would come to class over Zoom and the other students would be in person. And I think it worked out okay. We still had great conversations, and Izzy, I think you probably, you participated pretty heavily during class, which was amazing to see. So yeah. And Izzy's been with us since what? This is, you have one more semester left. Oh my God, Izzy, do you want to talk about the really exciting thing that's going to happen next semester? It has something to do with caps and gowns.
Oh yeah, this year, well, at the end of the spring semester, all the seniors, including people with intellectual disabilities, are now available to graduate now across the stage during graduation.
So really big development that's pretty exciting for our seniors. They will be participating in commencement ceremonies along with all of the undergraduate students. So we're very excited to see Izzy in her cap and gown. And Izzy, you've lived in Turner and you plan on moving into on-campus apartments when you come back to us?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Anything else you want people to know about you, Izzy?
And my disability is Down syndrome.
Thank you, Izzy. Oh, it's so nice to see your face. Sorry, I get very excited.
Isabel, I have a question for you too. I'm wondering if you could talk to people just about like maybe things that you would recommend. Like I think there's a couple students who are on tonight. So if they were thinking about college, what would you say maybe they should think about so that they feel prepared? Or maybe there was something that you felt like you weren't prepared for when you started college. Kind of like what would you think for the freshman year they should know?
Well, I think for you guys, I definitely feel like learning the rules of going up onto a college campus within a pandemic, especially within another year or so, because it might change. We don't know. It's also a little bit different for people. When I graduated high school, I never really knew that college or higher education was an option for people with disabilities. So when I got into UNC, I thought it was a great opportunity for me to develop a new skill through something that I want to do for the rest of my life after I graduate. And learning different like life skills can definitely, like within high school, can definitely apply to when you go into college. And it's a great experience to it's a great experience to have for you if you ever want that kind of experience of higher education. If you feel comfortable enough to go into school and higher ed, it's a great opportunity for people to feel inclusive and open.
Awesome. And I have one other question for you, which is about what was it like when you were living on campus? I know that you're not on campus now because of COVID, but maybe people might be interested in just hearing about what it was like when you were living on campus a little more.
Yeah. So in the past, I have lived in Turner Hall. It is going to be a little bit different since the pandemic. But in the in the past, well, going into like a residence hall is like going into like in kind of an apartment style, but it looks a little bit like a normal dorm with like rooms, a bathroom for you to share with another roommate, obviously, and it's like a little common area around there. So I had definitely had a good experience living in Turner, and it's a good experience to have an opportunity to live with other people other than just yourself and with your family.
Thank you. Now I see a question for Christina, or maybe for Laura, either of you, or even you, Isabel, probably can answer this too. Someone would like to know more about the goal class. Kind of what does that curriculum look like? I know you all kind of have different things each semester, so maybe you could just talk about what that process looks like, and really, whoever feels like they want to say something about that.
So goal students take yeah, Christina is going to let me do that. One goal class every semester. So that is a 4-credit class, which means that you're in class with me or a graduate assistant for 3 hours a week. And then you also have 1 hour a week where you have a workshop that you participate in, especially when you're a freshman. And we work on all kinds of different skills there, really. So the freshman year, like Christina had mentioned, that was really our transition to college life. So we're working on some, very fundamental skills around safety. How does college work? How can you organize yourself? What do your relationships with people look like now that you're in college? Because your relationships with your friends and your family might change. We also talk a little bit as freshmen about disability history, disability pride, really working on understanding yourself, your strengths, and what things are going to be helpful for you in the rest of your life. So that way you're able to communicate that information to other people. Then the rest of the classes start to get more detailed. So we do some career exploration. There's an entire class devoted directly to that. We have some classes on literacy skills that you're going to need when you're out living in the community, when you're working. We work on social skills and workplace skills. We work on finances. And so each class teaches something a little bit different, and we start to go more in depth throughout the 4 years. So we start kind of broad and then get really, really detailed. Christina or Izzy, do you want to add anything to that?
I think the only thing that I would add is we do bring in campus partners and community partners to facilitate some of the conversations. So this year we have developed a really nice relationship with Planned Parenthood and Sava, and they come in to talk about boundaries and healthy relationships and have some of those conversations that are a little bit tougher to have, but very important for a college student.
We've also worked with, oh my goodness, CCR, Center for Career Readiness on campus. They come in, sorry, we use so many acronyms I cannot always remember what they are. So they come in, we work with Wells Fargo. They will come in and talk about finances. So we really do try to bring in the real experts. We had someone come in, I cannot remember for the life of me what organization she was with, but she came in and talked about SSI and SSDI for the juniors this year so that they have an understanding of what some of those benefits are. We're starting to form some relationships with other partners who can talk about that kind of information in more detail. It's just a little bit challenging right now because a lot of them can't physically come in person, so that's limited who all we can have. But yeah, we definitely like to bring in those people who have that expertise and knowledge, so that way we know that we're genuinely providing the best information possible for students. Isabel, do you want to talk about what some of those classes were like? Your goal classes?
For me, I felt like they were like a fun experience for me, but it's also a good way to learn about yourself and to really learn about what it's going to take to have a career and have those independent needs after graduation, because they are all relative to after you graduate. is also really important to use in everyday life. So I think definitely in the go classes were definitely a learning curve towards what is going to happen after you graduate and how you will build upon that after you feel more feel like you're ready to be socially independent and also being responsible with your life and how to be balanced with it. So yeah.
Anything else any of you want to say about the goal classes before I give you the next question? Okay, the next one is, can you talk about a little bit about the decision of what age someone might go to college? So especially for someone who's considering maybe, the school district transition program from 18 to 21. I know some students do that, some students choose not to. Could you just talk about kind of what your thoughts are, if you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, Shelby, you know that I have thoughts, and I saw Laura also smiling. All right, so here's what I will say. Students who have come to us directly out of high school graduation, the transition has been harder for them. So if there is an opportunity to take part of a transition program, even if it's for a year, that student will be more successful in the long term. However, if a student is like, no, I'm good, I've had work experiences, I advocate for myself, I do all of these things, then they probably would be ready straight out of high school. So, but by and large, I err on the side of, if you can take advantage of transition services, I would. Laura, you were nodding, but I don't know if you have more.
No, I agree with Christina. We've had students who have taken just 1 year of transition services, and that's still enough time for them to develop a lot of the skills that will help them be super successful in our program. I actually don't know how many of our students have gone through the full transition until 21, but I know a lot of our students have done just 1 year, and that has helped them tremendously because it gives them an opportunity to start to develop those self-advocacy skills and those like managing their lives skills that are necessary when you're suddenly on a college campus. So yeah, I agree with Christina.
And I'll say too, because the programs are newer in Colorado, this is the 5th year now, there are a significant number of students who are older. And I know we're talking about UNC, but if you are in the metro area and your student is maybe older, the community college has lots and lots of students who are also older. So I'm not saying that's better or any reason, but I just want to share that overall between all the schools offering inclusive services, there is really a range of different ages. So. All right, I do not see any other questions. So I'm gonna say this is the last call. If anyone has a question they wanna send in, let us know. But maybe I'll turn it back to our speakers to just give maybe some closing thoughts, anything else you want anyone to know. And I really wanna thank Isabel. I know it's kind of late in your time zone right now, so I'm really glad you could be here. Thank you for getting on. Christina and Laura too. It's really great for people to hear directly from the schools. Often they just hear from me. So I'm very appreciative we could do a virtual format, even though it's a little weird. But yeah, if you have anything final you want to say.
I mean, so in closing, no, but seriously, if you're thinking about college for your student or a student you support, I think this is an amazing opportunity. And I don't just say that because I